on my cover, now drink me.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome back to Wonderland Wednesday. Today, Jenna and I are talking about a version of Alice in Wonderland that kind of has to be seen to be believed. As someone who loves eccentric versions of things and Alice in Wonderland and creatively surreal media, Alice at the Palace kind of spoke to all those things. Except when I went in, I had no idea what I was in for. I knew that this was a filmed, theatrical adaptation of Alice in Wonderland starring Meryl Streep, and that's literally all I knew about it. I had seen several versions of Alice in Wonderland that had been filmed as a live stage show, and I figured that this would be just another version like that. I think I was expecting something a bit more highbrow because Meryl Streep is such a big-name actress. This came out in 1982, so she'd won an Oscar by this point, and I think for whatever reason, I just expected a straightforward, by-the-numbers Alice adaptation, maybe something that would have aired on PBS that my grandparents might have watched on a Sunday evening. And this was 100% not that. Alice at the Palace is almost more of an experimental theatrical piece. Meryl Streep is about the only one in the cast with only one role, and the rest of the pretty small cast take turns going in and out of scenes, adopting a new role every time they show up. And even that description doesn't accurately convey what makes this version so bizarre. We'll get into all the reasons why this is such a unique adaptation in our conversation, but if you haven't yet watched Alice at the Palace, pause this episode, go find it on YouTube, watch it, and then come back. If you love surreal media, and I feel like most Alice in Wonderland fans at least have some appreciation for the surreal, then you need to make sure you watch Alice at the Palace.
But who will bring me down on Christmas morning?
You must manage the best you can.
In this situation, I think that
We must manage the best we can.
goodbye, feet.
It was all I could do to not text you while I was watching this thing.
Why is that? Tell me.
I had no idea what I was getting into with this. I was watching, I was like, what the heck is this? I thought it was a stage play. I mean, it is a stage play version of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
But, like, this is not what I was expecting in any way. It was, like, unhinged in the weirdest way. I kind of loved it.
Yay.
I felt like I was hallucinating through the whole thing. What is this movie?
Yeah, I was kind of like, I hope Jonathan's having a blast watching this. I knew what you were getting into, but I didn't want to spoil it for you.
No, I've known about this one. I knew, like, I think I had seen the very, very, very beginning because I remember seeing Meryl Streep in overalls as Alice, but
Oh.
I did not watch it far enough to realize how bonkers it was going to get.
Yeah. Well, now you finally saw it. So what's your overall impression? Or should we get into it? I don't know.
I mean, we could get into it.
Yeah.
My impression is it was bizarre, and I think I loved it.
Yay. I mean, that's pretty much everyone's. I think that kind of aligns with everyone's experience of this production. I remember I actually came across this pretty early on in my Alice. I want to say career, but it's not a career. Journey. There we go, journey.
Yeah.
I remember came across like clips of it on YouTube in high school, and it was actually how I memorized the Jabberwocky poem. Because it's actually really faithful. It does add quite a lot of lines, but at some points. But for the most part, a lot of it's just taken from the book.
Yeah, you could tell. They took passages straight up from the book, but then they would add music or they would recite them in such a way that it was, I mean, not quite a rap, but like rhythmic poetry.
Yeah.
It was weird, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I know most of the dialogue, again, from like the Mad Tea Party scene because of this Alice. Like, if I think about, well, the dialogue, like, in my brain, no room, just, it's almost like poetry in a way. Just the way, I don't know what it's called, but just the way they put the words to the music. It's pleasant to listen to, for the most part. There are some parts where I'm like, eh. But for the most part, it's pleasant to listen to, and it's really easy to remember if you've listened to this quite a lot, which I have before. So before we go right into it, some context is this was originally a stage production called Alice in Concert. And well, I don't want to say this definitively. I always got the impression that it was kind of meant to be more of a musical experiment or a music experience, like a straight-on adaptation, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, because I couldn't classify this in my mind. Like, I couldn't figure out what exactly it was supposed to be, but that makes a lot more sense than just the straight up play.
Yeah, and I think it was also even written originally kind of more as separate songs. Like, even when you like look at this analytically, for instance, so we have Learning to Draw, which I love that song, and I sing it to myself all the time, actually. But like, it doesn't flow into the Mad Tea Party scene where it's meant to belong. You know,
I feel like none of these scenes flowed into each other in a way. Like,
yeah,
watching this,
some of them
I
do, but yeah,
like this Alice in Wonderland is a dream, and a lot of
yeah,
people reference it being bizarre and feeling like they're in a dream because nothing really flows together and makes sense. But I never have that experience because I'm so familiar with the story. It just feels like this is how the story goes, and I'm just so
yeah.
used to it. This is the first time I've watched a version of Alice in Wonderland, and I felt like I was in a dream. It's like none of this makes sense, but
Especially
not
if
in a
you,
bad way.
yeah. It is kind of interesting. If you're familiar with the books, it really does trip you up because of the sequence, like the sequence of the flow, I guess, and the flow of the sequences, whatever.
Hmm.
And like some parts will be expanded upon, some parts will be skipped, or something will come in later instead.
Hmm.
But like if you really look at it, like you know, you can't say it's unfaithful though, because it's actually pretty faithful for the most part. It's like kind of hard to argue that it's an unfaithful adaptation at the same time.
I mean, it is
Um,
faithful, but it's just
yeah,
done in such a way that it feels alien
yeah.
almost.
So the Alice in Concert stage production, I have seen photos. It took place around 1980, and it's a very bare minimum kind of experience. You know, very like pretentious theater. Who needs a budget? You're just here for the theatricalness of it. That's the impression I
Hmm.
always got.
I mean, that's kind
Um,
of the impression I get with this too. It's very
yeah, exactly.
minimal sets of specific cast who play all different roles each. Yeah, it's a very small production, but it
It's
works.
interesting that you think it's kind of a bare minimum set because I would say compared to the photos I've seen of the stage production, that was literally nothing except for on a stage,
Mm.
and it not even a big stage, like it looks like a very tiny like stage room. You ever gone to a regional theater or something? I don't know. The photos I've seen don't even look like they're in a big theater,
I
and
think I'm comparing this to other versions that I've seen either more recently or just things in the past. Like we
yeah,
recently did the Edgar Bergen one, which is basically a stage play on television. And there was a
yeah,
lot more sets in that.
yeah.
And then I'm also thinking of I think it's PBS Masterpiece Theater, where everything was like built to look like the Tenniel illustrations.
Mm.
So this, compared to those, this feels bare minimum to me.
Yeah, I'll give it that. But it's interesting to me in the stage. I don't have very much. There doesn't seem to be that much information about like the production of this TV broadcast. Like who decided it would be a good idea to do it, which I think it was a brilliant idea to do it.
Hmm.
But you know, still like who saw Alice in concert and thought, let's do this. They did give it a bit more of a budget. There's sets which don't appear to have been a thing for Alice in concert, and costumes as well, because especially there's some gorgeous costume pieces in this one that come out of nowhere, probably rented or something, but still. But yeah, that's pretty much all the information I have to give you. Up until maybe like 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago now, I guess. I'm getting old. But there's a whole score and more songs that weren't included in this TV broadcast, or there are little snippets of songs sometimes to hear that were much longer. And there wasn't even a recording until the 2000s or 2010s
Hmm.
of like an album of the full music. The full and musical is kind of like a weird word to use for this, but it's not really a musical either. Because I feel like musicals have more flow to the story. But you know, I guess the reason why it was called Alice in Concert in the first place, that's why it's more of a concert. It's really hard to describe what this is. I guess we'll call it musical for lack of a better term. And then I don't know why they called it Alice at the Palace. I mean, I guess you're supposed to assume they're at the Palace Theater.
That's
Um,
kind of what I thought, but I don't know. I didn't know if they actually were or not.
yeah, I don't know either. I know there's a Palace. I guess there's a Palace Theater in New York. Looking it up, I know there's a Palace Theater in LA. Like, pretty sure it's not meant to be there. But yeah, so it's just an interesting experience. It's very the music ranges genres are like all over the place.
Uh-huh. That's part of
Um,
what it felt why it felt like I was hallucinating or dreaming through this whole thing because it would be one thing in 1 minute and then the next minute something completely different.
yeah. Oh, interesting. So looking it up, you could get a license for to perform this yourself, and they call it a music hall version. I guess that sums it up. But yeah, it was originally a New York Shakespeare Festival production. Elizabeth Swados composed the score and adapted the book directed for the stage. And then they performed it originally at New York's Public Theater. But I don't know where the terminology of Alice at the Palace came from. I don't know if anyone figured it out. But I mean, it's safe to assume the palace is meant to be the theater she's at. Which I always call this version like if you can imagine Alice falling asleep backstage at an old theater. That pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, kind of.
Anyway, so one thing I find really unique about this Alice, I mean, there's a lot of unique things, but it kind of is bookmarked with a poem that's not by Lewis Carroll. It's What There Is by Walt Whitman. To be honest, I don't really feel like it fits in with Alice that well, like lyrically, but the composition of the song is beautiful, so it's
Hmm.
fine. I like it better as a inserted poem than the one in the 1966 BBC production, so there's that.
I liked it. I didn't understand exactly what it had to do with Alice, but it was good.
I guess I've noticed some artists can kind of put a spin on Alice as a celebration of like nature because most of it takes out in nature and Alice is having the dream while she's out in nature. I mean, okay.
I
I
mean,
won't argue against that.
that would make more sense if this was actually out in nature. This was like all in a theater.
Yeah, that's the only thing I kind of don't get. I mean, maybe in the original, because before there wasn't really in Alice a concert, there wasn't really any sets.
Hmm.
So maybe it was meant to like make you think about the outdoors, maybe like to imagine her out in nature. But I don't have any sources for that. That's just what maybe.
Yeah.
And then Meryl Streep is like I think the oldest Alice I know of.
How old was she
Uh,
in this? She
she
definitely
was
was the oldest
32.
one I can remember.
Yeah, 32 or 33. Well, I think she was 33 when it aired on TV. But she was probably 32 when this was recorded.
Wonder how that compares with, I think it was the PBS version where Alice smokes.
Oh, Kate Burton. I think she was younger. I could look it up. Yeah, she was younger because Meryl Streep was born in 1949 and Kate Burton was born in 1957.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm kind of like, how old was Carol Marsh? Because that's the other old Alice I could think of. But I think she was younger than Meryl Streep as well.
Which version was that?
That's Luke Bunyan with the puppets,
Oh,
1949.
I didn't read her as being like I thought of her as a teenager. I didn't think of her as much older than that.
I think she's at least in her 20s, but yeah, she was
Probably.
22. So
Okay.
Meryl Streep is the oldest Alice
Okay.
that I know of. I don't know if there's been like a newer one since then. I think she's. I'm like, hey, how old was Kate Beckinsale in 1998?
Oh yeah.
Because that's the one where she's like a mom.
Yeah. My guess would have been late 20s maybe because Meryl
19.
Streep still just, something about her just reads to me so much older than every other Alice I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. Kate Beckinsale is 25, which she had that child very, very young.
I mean,
Um,
she could be playing older than she was.
yeah, true. But yeah, so this is an old Alice. That said, though, what I always find interesting about Meryl Streep's portrayal of Alice, it's very obvious like she tapped into maybe like her own memories of being a child, maybe observed other children, but I feel like she embodies a lot of like children, like how they interact with the world, or like there are just moments which she'll like do something to like she's amusing herself, and it kind of reminds me as a kid, like I would just do random stuff to amuse myself, like swaying a certain way,
Yeah.
walking a certain way, and there was no rhyme and reason to it. I don't know, it makes me think of that.
There were moments where she would just do something bizarre, and that was another thing that contributed to making me feel like I was hallucinating.
Yeah. So I actually feel like Meryl Streep is a pretty good performance of Alice, especially like acting like a child. But I personally don't think it's in an off-putting way. Maybe some other people would think it's off-putting, but I think it's fine.
I
Maybe
think,
it's this theatricalness of it.
yes, definitely. I think some
Yeah.
people probably do, though, because when I first started watching it, when the White Rabbit showed up, I was like, wait, I know that guy. So I went to IMDb. First thing I saw was that this had a 5 something on IMDb, and I was like, oh no. Because people say anything under a 6 is bad on IMDb.
People don't know what they're talking about.
And then as I was watching it, I was like, I am enjoying this, but I can totally see why other people would not.
People without taste. No, I sometimes I think I don't know. Sometimes I think some people who view media are just not very. I don't know what the terminology is. Like some people just view media as very straightforward.
Uh-huh.
They don't experiment with it. You know, like they watch a movie and that's it. The experience is just watching the movie. They don't engage with what they're watching.
Yeah,
So I mean, if you watch movies that way, I think this is not going to be a fun watch for you.
probably not.
Yeah. But if you like experimental things, then like I think people who like theater and who like experimenting, who like engaging with what they're watching,
Hmm.
especially like if you like Alice, this is just an interesting way of watching an Alice because it's not a standard adaptation, but it's pretty faithful at the same time.
Hmm.
So it kind of rides this tightrope that's really interesting to watch if you're a fan of Alice. So I think it probably has a low IMDb score just because most people who try to watch this were just not the right audience for it.
Yes, probably.
Yeah. So especially if they're just watching because they're Meryl Streep fans or something, then it's like, oh, because Meryl Streep is known for a lot of like serious work too.
Uh-huh.
And I doubt this is like any of the other actors' work, to be honest. Yeah, I could see someone like being blindsided by this if they were just following like Meryl Streep's filmography or something.
Yeah, definitely. Was there anybody else in the cast that you recognize besides Meryl Streep? She's obviously the biggest name here.
To be honest, not really, but I've seen this so many times now.
There were a few that jumped out at me. First one, like I said, was the White Rabbit. He jumped out not because I'm that familiar with him. I actually, like, I looked him up and then I was scrolling through and I was like, why do I know him? And then I recognized one thing on his IMDb, which is something I saw when I was a kid. And I think that's what stuck out to me. There was Mark Lynn Baker. He was in a show called Perfect Strangers, which I remember watching a bunch as a kid. And I remember liking it, but I don't remember what the show really is about. I just remember it was a show that I watched a bunch. The main thing that I remember about the show is there was an episode where either he or I think it was his cousin, one of the two main characters was cut in half by a magician, like the box trick, like you lay down in a box. And in the actual trick,
Yeah.
there's two people in two halves of the box. They just make it look like one person getting cut in half. But in the show, he got cut in half by the magician, and then they left him behind in half. And I think that just gave me some sort of existential dread as a little kid.
Okay.
But that's why I knew him. But then when I went to IMDb to find him, the first person that jumped out at me, I totally missed her. The person who plays Alice's sister. And everybody in this, I'm saying the name of the thing they showed up as first. They are so many other roles in this. So I'm calling him the White Rabbit, but that's just a fraction of what he plays. He's more characters than the White Rabbit later on.
Oh, yeah,
White
everyone
Rabbit,
plays like multiple characters, yeah.
yeah. But the person that jumped out at me when I first opened IMDb was the person who played Alice's sister, Betty Aberlin, who is Lady Aberlin on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh, well, there you go. I never really watched that.
I watched it all the time, and because her scene at the very beginning was so quick, it did not register who she was. I didn't look at her face. I think I was too busy looking at Meryl Streep. So then when the White Rabbit showed up, I was focused on him, and then I went to IMDb, and then immediately saw Betty Aberlin. I was like, wait, what?
Huh. Isn't she also, wait, looking at a picture of her, isn't she also like one of the Mock Turtles kids?
Yes. She's a bunch of characters all throughout the thing.
Yeah.
Like, everybody who stars in this has multiple roles. Even though IMDb only credits some of them as like one thing, they are a bunch of things. They are all over this production. Except for Meryl Streep. She is Alice through the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really recognize anyone else, but they're all great.
Yeah. The one person that I recognized, but only because I looked them up, he's so much younger than I knew him, was Michael Jeter, who...
Oh, yeah, that's the person who plays the Dormouse, right?
Yes. His main thing, I think, that... Well, when I was a kid, I knew him as the evil clown in Air Bud. But then when I was a teenager and still watching kids media with my younger brothers, he was Mr. Noodle on Sesame Street. I think that's the character's name. He's like, there's multiple Mr. Noodles, but like in the Elmo's World segment, Elmo would go and visit Mr. Noodle, who was like a mime or a clown or something. And Michael Jeter was one of the Mr. Noodles. But then also, when I first started getting in Jurassic Park around the same time I was watching Sesame Street with my younger brothers, in Jurassic Park 3, Michael Jeter gets killed by raptors. So it was like Mr. Noodle's getting killed by raptors.
Oh no. That's traumatizing.
I mean, at that point I was a teenager, so I wasn't watching with my little brothers. So nobody was around to be traumatized. It was just mildly amusing to me because I'm watching Mr. Noodle one day and then the same person is getting killed by raptors the next.
Yeah.
And then one person I did not recognize, but I looked her up, Debbie Allen, who played the Queen. I didn't recognize her, but she's the sister of Felicia Rashad.
I don't know what that is either.
She was the mom on The Cosby Show.
Oh, okay. Kind of remember her, yeah.
Cosby Show is another show that I grew up with. I have not watched it in many years for obvious reasons, but I loved her when I was a kid. She was like the perfect TV mom.
I think everyone in the cast is fantastic.
They were. And like I said, I don't recognize anybody else, but they were all great as their many, many roles.
Like, the casting is perfect.
Yeah.
Michael Jeter, I don't know, he plays, so he plays Bill, he plays, the pig baby, he plays, the Dormouse. He's just perfect in, like, all the roles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, can you just imagine? Yeah, I played all these people, and he was on Point Shoes at some point.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do. Other mentions, I really liked Mark Lindbaker, especially as the Mock Turtle. He just had like the saddest eyes. It was perfect.
He was also very good in all of his many roles.
Yeah, he also played the White Knight in the March Hare. And then I also like Deborah Rush as she also had multiple roles, but she kind of has the motherly role, I guess, throughout a lot. Like at one point, she's Alice's mother, like the memory of Alice's mother's voice, I guess.
Uh-huh. That was her first, when she first showed up, I looked her up on IMDb and she was credited as Alice's mother. So then she kept showing up through the whole thing, and in my head, she's just Alice's mother.
And then I don't know if it's explicitly said, but she's the Griffin in the Mock Turtle scene as well.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people miss that. I guess we'll talk about it in a bit on why that scene is unique in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But I love her in that scene. But yeah, everyone in this is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Should we talk about different scenes that stood out to us, maybe?
Sure. My original idea was just like, we could just bounce around, but then as I was going through, I had notes on like everything. So if we want to go through the whole thing in order, we can.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't mind bouncing around, just wherever the conversation takes us, man. It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah. I've kind of gotten more into bouncing around in recent, like through the last year. Sometimes it's kind of easier that way. And I just
Yeah.
figured I would do that for this, but for whatever reason, as I was watching this, I was like, I'm just writing thing after thing after thing as I'm going here. Because there were so many odd choices,
Yeah.
but stuff that I really liked.
Yeah. I guess bouncing off of Deborah Rush being Alice's mom, I think that was actually my first note here is I immediately, if anyone's listening to this and you haven't watched it, just stop and go watch it
Yeah.
because it's not going to be fun to listen to this, and we're gonna spoil
You're going to be
everything.
lost if you're watching
Yeah.
this.
But yeah, because I'm like, should I describe what sequence this is? But no, I'm just gonna give the bare minimum because you really should be watching this before you listen to this. But so the drink me sequence, I always think that this one is so unique for having. So in the book, if you're a nerd, um, Alice is like debating with herself whether to drink the bottle marked poison, because she had heard from other people that it might be yada yada. And in this version, I think it's the only version ever that actually makes that advice specifically be from Alice's mother, and then have Alice's mother in the sequence, like kind of being a voice of reason of you shouldn't. But it's like a memory. She's not actually there. I guess it's more of Alice's mom's voice, like
Yeah.
she's remembering it, but her mom is behind her. I don't know. It's just unique. I don't think anyone's ever done anything like that.
I don't think anyone's ever done anything like most of these
Most of
scenes.
this,
But this
yeah,
in particular, this is where I first started being like, what am I watching? Because like everything was going really quickly. Like you went straight from on the bank down the rabbit hole, falling in like a minute and a half. It was like immediate almost.
yeah. I will say this version. I think whoever picked out the scenes to do did not care for the beginning of the Wonderland songs, which, to be fair, I didn't really dig either when I listened to the album version, so I could kind of see why. So they were just like speed run, this. All right, now I like this part, so we're gonna focus more on the scenes.
Hmm.
And though that said, I really like the Drink Me sequence and Goodbye Feet, which I will mention now too. I love the Goodbye Feet section because it's so much like a kid just messing around because
It
they're
was
bored.
so bizarre. Like the whole thing. Like as I was watching,
Yeah.
you're like, what am I watching? This is where I started feeling like I was in a fever dream. And then
Yeah.
the part where she's singing the Goodbye Feet song, she went down on the floor like and she was making noises. I was like, is
Yeah,
she
like
pretending to be a car? I was like, I don't know what's going on. It reminded me, I don't know if you've seen this guy. I think he probably blew up on TikTok, but I saw him, I think, on Instagram and then on YouTube. Scoochie Boochie. He's
no,
he's a
never.
he's a rapper. He does like cringe rap, if that's a genre, I don't know. But he has a
Okay.
song called Car Butt, where one of the lines is, I drive around on my butt like a car. It's bizarre. It is a really dumb song, but it is catchy. And when she went down and she's making these noises, I was like, did Scoochie Boochie watch this movie and get the inspiration for this rap about driving around on your butt like a car?
That's it. I don't think she's mimicking a car. I
I
think she's
don't think so
pretending her
either, but
feet
when
are
she
grown.
first started making the noises, I was like, what is happening here?
I think that is the part where you're just like, this is the Goodbye Feet section is where you officially realize that it's not a normal adaptation.
Yes, exactly.
Um, like before that, you're just like, wow, this is a little speedy, but okay.
Yeah.
And then that's
Yep.
like, oh, this is different.
Yes.
And because it also, I like the cinematography in that song as well, where it's up close to her feet because it's a song
Uh-huh.
about her feet.
Yeah, they changed the camera angle so to mimic growing huge because they obviously can't. It was like this is a
Yeah,
play, so but they get around that by making the camera down below her so it looks like
it's
she's
like
huge.
making a special effect
Yes.
with no budget at all.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that sequence because it just reminds me of a little kid messing around because they're bored. And it's just there's no frills about it, right? There's nothing fancy about it. It's just a camera on the ground and an actress who is over 30 years old
Hmm.
singing about her feet.
Which adds to the bizarre fever dreamness of this whole thing.
I think this is also when you start to see shots of an audience, who I guess are kind of the stand-ins in late Victorian garb, which I don't really get the point of.
I don't really either. It's everybody
Yeah,
else in the cast, but they're sort of in a balcony and
contemporary.
they show up throughout the whole thing. Like if they're not part of the, and sometimes even if they are part of the scene, because there are
Yeah,
some scenes where somebody is interacting with Alice, but then it'll cut to this balcony audience and that person is in the balcony also.
yeah, but in Victorian garb.
Yeah.
I think there's only one part where they cut to this audience scene and they're in contemporary clothes. That's later, I think, when the Mock Turtle's son, who's super hot, and the girl's like, you know, swooning over him. But for the most part, when you cut to this balcony, they're like in the Victorian garb, and I don't know if there's any reason for it. If they're just being like, this is a story told to Victorians, and that's it. It's like, okay,
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know. It's just interesting.
hmm
They probably rented the costumes, I imagine, but they're very pretty costumes, so I'm glad they used them. It is just kind of, huh. I wonder why though.
Renting makes the most sense because none of the costumes in this really felt like they were specifically made for an Alice adaptation.
Yeah, there's only a few pieces where I think they, probably were like the caterpillar shirt.
Yes, that one, but like the caterpillar was another thing. I loved the caterpillar, but I could see like a little kid watching this and being disturbed.
Yeah. So
That was so
th-
bizarre. Like the
yeah,
caterpillar itself, like the main character of the caterpillar, that one I do think that they must have had to make that like the hood thing that he wears. I think they would have had to make that. But the caterpillar's body is made up of the entire cast.
yeah.
It's so
I think
weird.
it's
I love
I
it.
think it's smart. Yeah, it's very clever and very very low budget.
Yes, but it works so
Yeah,
well. Like it's in a
it works really
darkly
well.
lit room and there's smoke everywhere to like hide the fact that it's just uh like 10 people sitting on an incline all stacked up. But like you can still tell. And at this point, if I hadn't known that Betty Aberlin, or as in my mind, she's just Lady Aberlin because that was her character in Mr. Rogers. If I hadn't
Mm.
known beforehand, she would have jumped out immediately as the camera is panning up the caterpillar's body. That would have been like a weird jump scare. I almost wish I hadn't known. And then just suddenly Lady Aberlin from Mr. Rogers is part of this giant centipede thing.
Oh no! Now that you described it like that,
It was so weird. I loved it.
and they're all like chanting, "Who are you?"
Yes,
too. It's
yes.
very
It's
well.
I this that
Who are you?
yeah.
Yeah,
It felt like if a little kid who hadn't been exposed to strange media had seen this, they might have had nightmares over this thing.
yeah.
It's so bizarre.
I would say this is actually pretty. I think this would actually be a decent introduction to surreal media to a kid.
Probably yes.
Because nothing is actually dark. Nothing is like nothing bad. Well, I guess there is one moment. We'll talk about that in a bit. But for the most part, it's all tame. It's just really weird.
Yes, yes. It is
um,
very tame, but very strange. And I
yeah.
loved how strange it was. Especially the caterpillar. I think the caterpillar was my favorite scene. It was
Oh,
so
really?
weird. It was so weird. I loved it.
I think my favorite scene is the mock turtle scene, just because it's such. Sorry, I guess we're gonna jump again. It's such a interesting depiction of the scene. So for an Alice nerd, you know that the mock turtle scene takes place on a beach.
hmm
There's a mock turtle. There's a griffin. They're both old dudes reminiscing about nostalgia or whatever, while Alice fights for her. Just like, okay, fine, with these old dudes, and they're rambling to me about the sea. But in this, the mock turtle's still an old dude, but the griffin is his wife now,
hmm
and they're in their house with the violin player, canonically there, playing sad music, and um, and their two children who are adults, but still they're children, or at least close to adults. I don't know canonically how old they're supposed to be, but they're played by adult actors.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it's just such a unique take on the scene. Who would think, let's turn this into a family situation?
Yeah.
And the actors for the Mock Turtle, which we mentioned Matt already, and Deborah, who plays the Griffin, they have such great chemistry playing off each other. Like she's tired of his crap. Just she hears this all the time. At some point when he asks, "Have you ever heard of a lobster quadrille?" and she's motioning for Alice to say yes because she knows he's gonna he's going to ramble and talk on and do the whole thing about lobster quadrille again if she doesn't say yes. But Alice says no, and she like goes to try to strangle her. I don't know, just the dynamic, and then the other point where she tells, "Oh, lay off already" to the violin player, and the violin player stops, and then Mock Turtle like gives a hand motion to continue so he can keep crying. Just there's I guess there's just kind of like storytelling in the way that they act around each other that's not explicitly said in the scene about how they live as a family that really intrigues me. I don't know, it's just a unique take, and I love the transition. I will say the only part I think is kind of weird is the whole swooning concert over the Mock Turtle's son.
Yes, that was bizarre because Alice is also part of the audience at that point, but she's also still in the shack.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's this weird, like, it changes into him on a stage singing and the girl, in the balcony scene, and he chooses Alice to start dancing with her, and then it changes back to they're in the shack, and that didn't actually happen, and the daughter sings, and it's like, oh, okay, what was the point? But I love the actual Lobster Quadrille, the Willy Won't You. It's so, like, melancholy. I think it's probably one of my favorite renditions of this poem/song. Just because I don't know, there's just something like reminiscent about it in the way it sounds. And anyway, so yeah, that's probably my favorite scene in this. Thumbs up.
Yeah, with that scene, I didn't really know what was going on. Like, I knew what it was supposed to be, but he's not in any way made up to be like a turtle. She does not, they're dressed like normal people. They don't look like a turtle and a griffin. But he's still singing.
I will say she doesn't look like a griffin at all. But I think so. A lot of the costume pieces you see this in theater a lot, especially in low budget productions, where they'll use common everyday clothing pieces, but try to mimic a character with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's wearing like a weird like coat vest that has a long tail or long wide tail coat of it. I don't know how to call it, and I think it's supposed to be like a shell. So he's kind of like a turtle shell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some costume pieces that are like that. Like, so the caterpillar's hood/shirt. I think that's one as well.
Probably. That's the only one where it made me think that they would have had to make something because the hood didn't look like a normal hood for anything.
Yeah. Well, also the stripes as well on the caterpillar shirt.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of any other unique costume pieces like that. I think those are probably the only two that are super unique.
Yeah, nothing's really jumping out at me as something like they made this costume for this character because it needs to look like this. Because even like the cards, they're just dressed normally and then they've got a big playing card with the face cut out of it that they hold up in front of them to represent the playing cards. So it's not really even the costume. And then they ditch those right away.
And the Queen of Hearts dress, I think, is basically a flamenco dress.
Yes.
Kinda. I don't believe it. It could be rented. I don't believe that was necessarily made for the production.
I didn't think of it while I was watching it, but renting the costume sounds like probably what they would have done. That makes the most sense. Because all of these things feel like something that you could probably rent from some kind of a generic-ish costume store.
Yeah, even the period costumes, I think, were probably rented.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of other costume pieces to talk about. The person who plays the caterpillar is also wears like this like waistcoat that I think is supposed to go with his Mad Hatter persona. But he wears the striped shirt underneath like all the time. So I don't know. It's just everyone kind of has a unique look in this one because their costume pieces all tie in together.
Mm-hmm. I guess the table was a costume too, because the table danced during the tea party scene. So there was somebody
Yeah,
under the table wearing the table as a costume.
yeah. Which again, very unique for this version. So hopping to the Mad Tea Party scene, one of my favorite scenes, not my favorite, but I think it's a pretty good one, where people are at the table. I think there's more than one person underneath there, and the table moves, and like at one point even has a line, "Nor I." They just make it add it on into the dialogue. Which I don't think a lot of people catch on, but it's an extra Narai line, and the table moves as it says it, and there's multiple people saying it.
I think I missed that, but that actually makes sense. I feel like they called out the table as a character at one point, so that
Yeah,
makes sense.
they introduce the table when it says the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, the Dormouse, and the something tea table, magical
Hmm.
tea table.
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is the only version I've seen where the tea table is actually supposed to be canonically sentient.
I
Um,
think so. I don't remember another sentient table.
yeah. And it doesn't distract from the scene though, because
No, it
like for
works
the
for
most
this.
part, yeah, a lot of people even miss that it's sentient. I know my first few watch throughs I didn't catch on. It was only until later when I was actually like thinking about how it compares to the book dialogue that I was like, oh, there's an actual Narai. Oh wait, the table's saying it. That I realized it really is meant to be sentient and that it's even introduced as a character.
Hmm.
But yeah, so make tables live.
What did you think of the scene with the Duchess? That one was so bizarre. Like it was not at all what I was expecting.
Yeah, so to start with, as an Alice fan, I think this is also when the movie takes Alice nerds by the hand. It goes, this isn't going to be your average adaptation because it starts out with Beautiful Soup, which is really disorienting if you're an Alice nerd because Beautiful Soup is much later in the Mock Turtle
Uh-huh.
scene.
When that
Um,
started happening, Michael Jeter shows up, and I thought he was supposed to be the Mock Turtle. But then it
yeah,
transitions into the Duchess's house, and he's the baby. And I was like, wait, what?
it makes sense if you've already seen it before, like, oh yeah, she's feeding the baby soup. But like for your first time watching it, it is kind of like, what? So and not only that, it starts out as the mushroom the caterpillar tells her to
Uh-huh.
try, and then it turns it she dismantles it and it's a bowl and like it's really a peg, but it's she pretends like it's a spoon.
Uh-huh. I
Um
thought it was supposed to be
thing
like a mortar and pestle, but then
yeah,
it was a bowl and spoon question mark.
yeah, and then Alice like oh, and then at one point almost uses it like a singing bowl, like strikes the side of it and pretends to feed the baby with it, and it's just like, what's happening? I know this is a poem from Alice, but it should be much later. And then suddenly you're in the Duchess's house, and it does make sense because that scene does take place not immediately after the caterpillar scene in the book, because there's usually the fish and frog footman before that. But the sequence of events is correct. You're back in the timeline of the story, and you're like, oh, and I don't know. It kind of like breaks you of the expectation that it's going to be faithful, but at the same time, it is
Uh-huh.
still pretty faithful.
It's faithful in a weirdly bizarre, semi-unfaithful but still faithful way.
Exactly, and I think that's the kind of moment that it's like pay attention because we're doing it differently.
Yeah.
So already, if you're an Alice fan, at the beginning of that scene, you're already disoriented because that's also the first time that happens where you're like, oh, it's going to be a little bit different, and then it descends into complete chaos. I don't even know what genre it's meant to be.
It
The other
was
songs I could guess.
it was
Um,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was just so strange. Like it was just so chaotic and there was a whole bunch of extra people. And
Yeah, like there's a bunch of cooks in this Duchess scene, so that's fun.
but also it's like they also seem like they're peasants. Like the Duchess looks like the washerwoman from Wind in the Willows.
Yeah, I don't know if this is because it was rented or something, but yeah, she doesn't really look like a Duchess.
I feel like it was a purposeful choice because like they have a bunch of nice dresses later on in the movie. So if they had wanted her to look like a duchess, I think they could have. It felt like a
Yeah.
deliberate choice to make them all look like they're living in a shack.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the choices behind that scene, why it is what it is. But like it's still fun. Like it's not an unfaithful scene. Um,
No, like it has dialogue from
and it's
the book.
chaotic,
Yes.
but it's also melodic too. Still,
Uh-huh.
like I'm just thinking, what lives rent free in my mind for years is the cat and that saying, like but it's still like in tune with the music.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a that scene just kind of like breaks you in a way of this isn't going to if you still have any expectations, throw them away.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So I like that scene. But I why I like it, I can't really tell you. I think it's just the unexpectedness of when I first saw it. I still hold on to that.
Everything about this movie is unexpected.
um,
What did you think of this Cheshire Cat?
I like him, but I think his costume's a little boring. Though I did rewatch it with my boyfriend today before doing this podcast, and I said I don't know why the cat's wearing such tall purple boots. And he's like, maybe it's supposed to be like Puss in Boots. And I was like, oh, maybe. So I don't really enjoy his costume though. I think it's a little boring, but I like the actor. I think he does a very good job with the kind of like meow quality of his voice, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Like his voice embodies a cat.
It does. For a little bit, I was thinking, are they dubbing his voice over with someone? Because I think everybody might have had their, like, I think they might have pre-recorded the soundtrack because I noticed it first with the Cheshire Cat because it didn't seem like the voice quite matched the lip movements. Like it was just off by like a half a millisecond or something. Something where I was like, I almost felt like somebody else was doing his voice, but then I started noticing it with other people. But for the Cheshire Cat, I think maybe he was doing falsetto because at first I thought it was a woman doing the cat voice.
Yeah, he's doing falsetto.
But then later his voice went deeper, so I think he was just kind of all over the place purposefully.
Yeah, I think he was sounding that way on purpose, and it's like a falsetto.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't notice any delay with the voice or anything. Maybe that's dependent on the copy.
It could be. I also wondered
Yeah.
about that, but it wasn't enough that I really noticed it. It was just I briefly noticed it. I think the first thing that made me notice it was me wondering if the Cheshire Cat was being dubbed with somebody else's voice. And then I briefly noticed it with a couple of other people. But for the most part,
Uh,
it seemed fine.
but I didn't notice, but I also tend to have a history of not noticing unless it's really bad.
Yeah.
Um, so take that as you will. Um, Going back to the cat in general, though, I really enjoy the bit. So at the end, did he say pig or fig when he comes back? And it's like with the spotlight. I feel like that's really fun. Kind of again using the theater backdrop of this production to its fullest.
Hmm.
That said, though, I think the part where his grin comes into play and he's like wearing his shirt over his face and only his mouth showing is kind of a letdown.
It was odd. I understand why they would need to do that, but I kind of wish they would have just cut that bit completely.
I think they were trying. It was funny. So like the low budget y things, like putting the camera on the floor, having Alice sing goodbye to her feet and using the camera angle to make it seem like she's stretched out or whatever.
Uh-huh.
My brain goes, that's clever. But then when it goes back to kind of a bare minimum, putting a shirt over his top half of his face to just
Yeah.
leave his grin, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't hit the mark for me. It feels like kind of a letdown. But like technically it's on par for what they've already done. So like I just didn't care for it. But other than that, it's okay scene.
It worked, but not as well as other low budget choices.
Yeah. I mean it's with the methodology of this production. I just didn't care for it.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts about the cat scene?
Mainly that just like his yowls were mildly disturbing, but I think that was on purpose. I think I always feel like that when a human actor is trying to do the cat voice, because there have been other versions where it's a mostly human-looking person being a cat, and the more they try and make their voice sound cat-like, the more off-putting it is to me.
Mm. Personally, I feel like this is one of the better versions of a human cat. But
Oh yeah, there have been
yeah,
so much worse than this.
yeah.
This is definitely one of the better ones in that regard.
I guess to bounce a little bit just before the cat scene. So we have the pig baby, and she's carrying him, and
I
he's like
I didn't
oinking.
realize how small Michael Jeter was until she picked him up. And
Yeah,
it's like,
how
yeah,
delicate.
I knew he was like a shorter guy, but it never really clicked in my head like how small he was, at least compared to Meryl Streep, because she has
Yeah,
no problem carrying him across the stage.
yeah, oh, yeah. Like he's a feather.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a not one of my favorite scenes, but it's okay scene. But there's this one point where she's like, better to be a pretty piggy than a ugly little child or whatever. Or when she talks about other girls that could be better off as pigs, she's like my sister Edith. I was like, oh, the shade. But it's a fun reference to the quote unquote real Alice Little having a sister Edith
Hmm.
who was a younger sister. I'm assuming she's not canonically not referring to her sister at the opening, but who
I
knows?
mean, I don't think her sister is ever named in the book, is she?
No, she's not. A lot of people will call her Lorena after the real Alice's older sister. Some versions will use Edith instead, I guess, because maybe they like that name more. I think this is really the first for like so one of the few versions I could think of where Alice actually has um well, I it doesn't explicitly say, but I feel like this implies that she does have two sisters, because the one at the beginning is not wouldn't be better off as a pig, and she seems too old to talk of that way. And then her mentioning Edith here makes me think she has two sisters, which is nice.
Maybe, but also some kids are just mean to their siblings.
Yeah,
Like, even though her sister is obviously very beautiful, she's like, "You're so ugly." There, a lot of kids can be like that.
but just to say ugly little girl just before that, better to be a pretty little piggy than an ugly little girl.
I don't remember.
Well, she says little. I think she is talking about a littler sister, but that
Or was it
this
a
is
pun
just
on
a
her last name?
maybe that'd be weird though.
I mean, this version has made other weird choices, so.
I guess. Nah, I think she is supposed to have two sisters in this, but this is me overanalyzing a throwaway line.
I mean, what is a podcast for if not overanalyzing throwaway lines?
Yeah. So overall, I already mentioned that this feels like Alice falling asleep at a theater, but there's lots of like little points throughout this that kind of like add to that vibe of it feels like theater kids. Like the spotlight, the cat, the flamingo just looks like a dirty prop she could have found in the prop room.
it,
Uh,
it was a really ratty looking thing.
I think it was from the original production of Alice in Concert, so I guess they already got through it a bit. Um, that was like one of the few things they did have. And then for sorry, a little side note here is after the loading to draw scene, we have the song Starting Out Again or whatever it's called, which is just kind of a random song about starting again, but there's like references to Alice throughout, like it's always tea time. So like it doesn't really have anything to do with the story if you take those lines out. I
There
don't
were
know what the
several
song.
songs like that through this, where they would stop the recognizable Alice action and then have a song that maybe was only tangentially related.
Yeah, there were a couple songs like that. This is one of them where it was like starting out again. And at the end of this song, though, you see the cards come up, and the Queen of Hearts card in particular has like white rose outlines
Hmm.
along the border of her card. And to color them in, the garters cards and Alice use red lipstick, which I think is really again adds to kind of the theater vibe of, well, yeah, of course they have makeup lying around, don't they? So why not use the lipstick to paint the roses red? I don't know. I just think it's kind of clever.
I thought it was crayons at first, but then she started putting it on the queen's lips, and I was like, oh, it must be lipstick.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of thoughts about the Queen of Hearts scene in particular, though.
It went so quickly. Like I expected, because like this is all going really quickly, and it took me till about halfway through until I realized, oh wait, I bet they're gonna move on to Through the Looking Glass But when I got to the Queen of Hearts, I was like, they must be saving all of their time to really do the Queen of Hearts right. But then they sped through her quite quickly also. And they didn't even do a trial scene.
The pacing of some scenes is kind of bizarre. Like we spent a lot of time with the Duchess. We spent a lot of time with a lot of time with the Mock Turtle. But then other scenes that usually have a lot more time dedicated to them in adaptation, like the Queen of Hearts, you don't really see that much of her.
She's almost like, yes, she has a whole scene, but in the grand scheme of the whole movie, it feels like she's an afterthought.
Yeah, and it's not a bad song. It's, to be honest though, I'd say it's one of the more boring ones.
It's
But
not
like,
as memorable, but I
yeah,
thought it was creative to make her, because like all of the songs just keep changing genres, but I thought it was creative to make her a flamenco dancer,
yeah.
singing and dancing about beheading people.
Oh yeah, there's no king in this version, so for all they know that they get beheaded for real. Um, but yeah, so this scene with the Queen of Hearts just felt really like speedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting what they'll spend time with and what they'll speed through, and she's just one of the speedier bits. Maybe part of that is because usually the Queen of Hearts is more involved in the croquet scene, but in
hmm
this one, she wasn't really involved in that song.
No, not at all. She was
Yeah,
like, Alice is the only one who has a mallet slash flamingo.
yeah. And to be honest, it's one of my least favorite sequences of this is the croquet scene.
Yeah, because they
Um,
kind of just had to mime a bunch of it and like point off screen, like talking about what the croquet field looked like and talking about the hedgehogs. Like you don't see any of it. It's just them pointing and describing what they're seeing. So it was a lot more boring than the way they did other scenes.
my thing is also the song is just not very interesting. It's like you'll be stuck in the muck and you'll be stuck. Like, huh?
hmm
It's just not a very good sounding song.
Yeah.
But Queen of Hearts isn't even in it, if I remember correctly, or she's barely in it.
She leaves after her dance.
Yeah, most Alice adaptations, the Queen of Hearts is there during the croquet scene, is like a big part of it.
hmm
But in this, she's not, so you don't really spend that much time with the Queen of Hearts. It's a strange choice.
hmm
And I go with queens. Maybe we should skip forward a little bit, talk about the queens later in Through the Looking Glass, because there's also a very unique choice here where there's four queens,
Yeah,
uh,
but not.
where there should be only two.
Yeah, none of them are named. Like, I was trying to guess who they were, and it felt like the person who played the Queen of Hearts was also supposed to be the Red Queen, and then it felt like Lady Aberlin maybe was supposed to be the White Queen, but then there's two other queens, and they all had dialogue from the Queen's scenes,
Yeah,
so I don't know that anybody was supposed to be any specific queen.
I do have like a headcanon that it's like the queens of the four suits, because Wonderland has each book has a different game associated with it, right? So Wonderland
hmm
has cards, but you only really see the Queen of Hearts. You don't see the Queen of Spades or the Queen of Diamonds, yada yada. So like for fun, I like to think of them as like the queen of the different suits, so that's why there's four. But like it doesn't really make sense though because it's in through the Looking Glass section, and that's the book that's associated with chess.
hmm
So and there's only two queens of chess, so it doesn't make sense at all. But whatever. I'll have fun with my card suit queens, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. The chess thing was kind of a bizarre choice because when you first go into the Looking Glass section, they are on a chessboard, but then
Yeah,
they don't reference that at all. And then
yeah.
you move on to some other things, and then at some point she's told that she'll be a queen once she makes it over the hill, and she's like freaking out, so excited, and I'm like, wait,
Like she wasn't
what?
aware of that before this moment
Yeah,
either.
yeah. It's like they didn't set this up at all. Like
Yeah.
that is the point of Through the Looking Glass. She's trying to become a queen, but they didn't set that up in this version, and now all of a sudden she's on the precipice of becoming a queen. She's freaking out. She's going to be a queen. She's so excited. I'm like, okay.
I think the original Alice in Concert had a bit more for Looking Glass than this.
I guess that would make sense
Yeah,
because compared to Alice in Wonderland, this part was a lot shorter.
yeah. Though oddly, it was still shorter, but there was a lot of focus on the scenes in it, which was unusual.
Yes, I expected them to do more through the Looking Glass, but then the scenes that they did ended up being a lot longer than I was expecting. Like the White
Yeah,
Knight lasted a long time, and they did the whole poem
an
the aged
aged
man
man.
sitting on a gate. They did the
Yep.
whole thing, and I'm like, okay, like almost no versions does this because it is pretty
It's a
boring.
boring poem.
Yeah, like it was, they did it well, but it's like, why, why did you choose this over the Tweedles? Like, there's no Tweedles in this version. I was expecting Tweedles.
The Tweedles are boring.
Yeah, but they have Wallace and Carpenter, and I would like Wallace and Carpenter more than I would like the aged man sitting on a gate.
I guess. Yeah. I will
Like,
say
this was fine.
this is probably the best version of Aged Man. However, they did cut out some verses, and I think that's for the best because Aged Man could
Probably. Well,
really
I
go
didn't
funny
realize
versions.
they cut out verses because it felt like the whole thing because the aged man sitting on a gate is so long.
I'm pretty sure they cut out at least one verse, but I might be wrong.
I mean,
Aged
it
Man
would
is
make sense if they did because it is
it's
a
one of
very
the few
long poem in
poems
the
I
book.
kind of hate from Alice or Alice in the Looking Glass, whatever. So I really don't care for it. I don't have it memorized, but I'm pretty sure they missed one or two verses. Like I didn't remember anything about the Menai Bridge being broiled in wine, but maybe I missed it. I will say, so this is like the best version of it that I know. That said, I don't remember any other version besides 1998, and I really don't like that one.
Yeah, that's the only one that's coming to mind right now where they actually do the poem.
Yeah, so I think it's an okay version of that poem, but it is a strange thing to focus on. But that's it. I do love the White Knight scene in general. Like the invisible horse is
It was an
hilarious.
interesting choice. I kind of liked
Yeah,
it. I was confused at first because he came in and
yeah.
I think he was reciting some of the White Queen's lines. And I was like, "Wait, is the White Queen a guy in this version?" But then he was like miming leading the horse, and I was like, "Wait, is this the knight, the White Knight?"
Was he saying White Queen's lines? I don't remember that.
He had the lines about believing in six impossible things before breakfast, which I believe is the
Oh,
White
okay. I
Queen's.
guess they re-signed it to him.
Yeah.
I think they were kind of like trying to give a nod to Lewis Carroll. The actor did also look like him a little bit, and the White Knight is known to be Lewis Carroll's self-insert.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so maybe the Six Possible Things is also kind of a nod to Lewis Carroll. I don't know, but
It could be because I've heard that, like, I don't know, Tumblr quotes, like they'll put that as like from Lewis Carroll. So
well, I
maybe,
mean, it is written by him, but
yes, but I mean, like
yeah.
they put that a lot as like this is like wisdom from Lewis Carroll, even though it's from like it's the White Queen. Like, if I were to turn that into like a post somewhere, I would put the White Queen from Through the Looking Glass. I wouldn't say from Lewis Carroll.
Yeah, that's just people being lazy and not wanting to do the whole thing. But I think the invisible horse gag is hilarious, especially when he like loses him.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so funny, and then it's just kind of awkward, and then we go into the poem, and that's where they lose me a little bit. But
I thought he mimed it very well, though. It really
yeah,
felt like he
he
was
like
pulling
interpreted
along.
danced it, and he's
Yeah,
very controlled when he's doing the dance. It's kind of beautiful. It's almost like a ballet. I have to say I'm not really into interpretive dance, but like this was fine. How do you audition for something like this?
I don't know.
Yeah, you show up, you rock up to the audition. It's like I can do interpretive dance. Just watch.
I have a
Yeah.
feeling that most of these people are stage actors who have probably done a lot of things where they have to do a lot of different things. Like Michael Jeter, I'm like, I don't know, but I'm kind of assuming that he had some sort of background in either clowning or mime because of the Mr. Noodle character on Sesame Street. Because Mr.
Mm.
Noodle is a silent character and he
Uh,
mimes things. And there was a little bit of that in this character too. So I'm thinking that he must have some sort of background in that.
a lot of actors will put special skills on like a resume.
Hmm.
So if you put, can you dance the ballet shoes? Can you do that? Or point shoes. So if Matt had like interpreted dance on his resume, they were like, hey, maybe we could do this.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind if I skip back a little bit?
I
And
was just gonna say we skipped over the Jabberwock, so we should probably go back to when she first gets to the Looking Glass section.
yeah, so like right before that really, yeah, let's skip back rewind a little bit. And again, if you haven't seen this, go watch it because this is really gonna spoil it, and it's a crazy. It's beautifully. It's kind of beautifully done, but also crazy.
Yeah.
I love it. This is how I was like. This is the version I have in my head when I recite Jabberwocky, because it's really faithful to the poem. I think they do switch two lines, like the jaws, the bite, the claws, the catch. I think they or Calucule, Founder's Day. They switch a couple lines around, so you have to be careful when you try to recite the poem from this. But yeah, it's just so unnerving, especially at the
Uh-huh.
beginning when they're very like strangely intimate when you see them like recite the poem to each other like face to face in a close up, and then you finally see the Jabberwocky, and it's a little bit scary, but then it's like he and Alice are play fighting, and she's having fun, and then she murders him, but she didn't realize she murdered him. Um, and then it gets really, really sad because it's like everyone's mourning, and it's like I've never ever seen Jabberwocky done like this
Me
ever,
neither. No.
and still not to this day. No one copies this, and it's such a I don't know. It's just kind of a brilliant interpretation.
Uh-huh.
Why haven't people been stealing this left and right? Why are people sleeping on this? This is a great interpretation of the Jabberwocky. I think it, frankly, is I'm gonna say it. I think it's the best interpretation of Jabberwocky I've seen in a production.
I think you might be right. Because, like, I am having trouble thinking of that many versions where you actually see the Jabberwock.
Yeah.
Like, obviously the Tim Burton version. There was that version in the 70s from the BBC with, it was like a weird puppet thing.
Oh yeah.
And there was that weird, completely unfaithful TV special from the 60s where the Jabberwock was like a guy wearing weird wings.
Sparkly leggings. Yeah.
But like to have like this, obviously this is not a Jabberwock as a monster. It's a person pretending to be the Jabberwock, but it was done in such a way that it didn't matter.
It's not the best Jabberwock costume or like
Yeah,
monster. He's not a fabulous monster. It's a person.
yeah. But like combining this fight with the way they did the poem as a weird, bizarre kind of 70s-ish sounding song is probably my favorite version of the Jabberwock I've seen.
I love the ending. It's so like poignant to me. It stays with you afterwards, where it's kind of because it switched up into like being quote unquote fun. Alice is having fun, and then suddenly it's like, wait, I actually killed him, and she's traumatized, and even like the Victorian audience just like crying, and it's like there's nothing like it. It stays with me forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it. And then she has to do the whole consider what a great girl you are, just don't cry. And then she's distracted. She forgot she murdered somebody, but I'll never forget, Alice. I know your crimes. But yeah, if anyone's foolish enough to listen to this without watching it yet, go watch it. Also interesting, I just realized this on rewatch again. Alice was the Beamish boy in this version before Tim Burton did that
I
in
had the
his
same
version.
thought.
Yeah, so eat it. You,
Maybe Tim Burton was inspired by this version.
he's not cool enough to have seen this. I guess going into the other Looking Glass sequence that I really like from this, Lying in the Unicorn. There's just something so crazy about, but crazy in a good way, about how this scene sounds with them singing. It
Yeah.
sounds like, I don't know, like old
Haunting.
and mystic. Yeah, I don't know what genre you would call that.
I don't know
Um,
either. It was
yeah,
so weird. Because, like, this is directly after the Queens. And, like, they're talking about she's going to be crowned queen and they're going to have a party. And I assumed that they were going to go to the party where there's, like, the talking ham or whatever it was.
yeah.
I just assumed that's where they're going. And then the Lion and the Unicorn come in. And it just, the tone shifted so dramatically. It was
I think
bizarre.
even before that, it kind of shifts right when the queens say, they talk about the lion and the unicorn, and, lion and the unicorn are fighting for the crown, and it's your crown all the while, which is a huge difference from the book and from other adaptations, which I like it though. I think it's
It
quite
worked for
clever.
this.
yeah, it worked for this. I would actually be okay with seeing this come up again in another production sometime.
Yeah,
But the idea of the Lion and the Unicorn are fighting for Alice's crown is so interesting to
it
me.
is.
So it still doesn't really make sense because like the book, the unicorn, Lion and Unicorn, like don't really win. Or I guess does the Lion win in the book? No, I forget. I get
I can't
yeah,
remember.
because he represents England, right? England won. But in this at least though, the unicorn has lost, but he's still the one to give Alice the crown. Bit odd, but the whole scene is kind of beautiful and poignant at the same time. I don't really care. And it has the "If you believe in me, I'll believe in you" line, which is a line I've always really liked. Even though I think a lot of people like that line, even though it's not meant to be as poignant as they reuse it as, because it's like, "If you believe in me, I'll believe in you." It feels like a nice sentiment, like, yeah, I'll believe in you as long as you believe in me. Yes. Whereas, I don't know, I feel like the intention actually was to be like a bit more silly. But anyway, I'm rambling. Um, but yeah, it's just a great scene, and it ends up with the crown being put in Alice's head, and she's now Queen Alice. And I think the best Queen Alice look in any adaptation, because she actually has like I guess it's still kind of medieval fantasy-ish, Victorian-ish stuff going on. She actually has like a royal cape. She looks fantastic. Probably still rented costumes, but yeah. And that's basically how it ends. She's crowned and she wakes up.
Yes, very abrupt.
Yeah. We also have what there is reprised as well, right before the crowning. Again, I don't know why the unicorn's singing it with her, but at this point you're just in the experience.
Yes. Well, I mean, everything about this was surreal
Yeah.
because, like, you already had the haunting music and everything, but also it felt like the lion and the unicorn were each played by two different people, like at the same time. The unicorn, especially, because you had the Cheshire Cat actor playing the unicorn, but also Michael Jeter was riding on his back holding the horn.
Yeah.
And then the
Well,
actor for the lion was on all
it's
fours
a
while
team
somebody,
effort.
yeah, somebody was walking beside him with the crown floating above his head. So
Yeah.
it was like there was two actors for each character, even though the main actor took over and was like the main character. It was
Yeah.
just a strange choice, but it worked for how surreal this whole thing was.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's something about this scene that's like super surreal that
Hmm.
sets up for the rest of the production. And yeah, I kind of love it. I almost kind of wish there was more weird mystic versions of Alice out there.
As I was watching it, I was like, I want to see somebody like turn this into an actual movie. Because like this is obviously a stage play. You can tell it's shot
Yeah.
on the stage. I was like, this would be so good as something bizarre and purposely surreal.
I kind of like it as it is.
I mean, I do too, but
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like someone building the world of this. Like there's just so many possibilities for making the most weirdly surreal version of Alice using this as the building blocks.
That's true.
Because there's so many things about this that I would love to see again in different ways.
Yeah, there are some elements I would also like to see again. Again, like some of the characterizations of the characters almost felt like more of a lore behind them, like the
Hmm.
Muck Turtle and the
Yeah.
Griffin, stuff like that. I think productions being more like considerate of, I guess, the world building behind the storytelling would be more interesting. Like I always enjoy when there's an implication that the White Rabbit has a wife, for instance, stuff like that.
Did they imply the White Rabbit had a wife in this one?
No, not in this one. That was just an example of like other versions that could that might there might be a picture of the Mrs. White Rabbit on the wall or something in the background.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
because the scene with the White Rabbit, like the White Rabbit is not in this version much at all, but they do have the scene in his house, and there was a bunch of people there. One of which was I think Pat was a woman. So when you said that, I was like, wait, was Pat supposed to be his wife in this version? And I'd missed that.
no, no. I think it's just the Mock Turtle and the Griffin that have that
Yeah,
husband-wife dynamic.
which is interesting. It's not a thing I'd ever even thought about as possibilities for their characters.
Yeah. It is, yeah, like I've never thought of that about that before this version, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone do something like that again.
Hmm.
But I really like it.
Yeah.
But in general, I like unique interpretations. Like the also came out around this time, 1981, like Russian Alice, Alice of Strange Shoots has like the caterpillar as like a granny character, a babushka.
Is that the animated one?
Yes.
Okay. It's been
So
forever
just
since
like
I've seen that one.
yeah, just like a different interpretations of the characters that I'm not used to. I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too. And this was full of them.
Yeah. But yeah, so do I recommend this? Yes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you don't like Alice, then why are you watching this or listening to it? Um, that's the
I would
only thing.
hope that if anybody is still listening to it at this point, that they have seen this and they like it. But if you, for whatever reason, have not, you need to watch this version. Because if you're
Yeah,
listening to us talk about it, I think you'll probably like this version.
yeah. I honestly think that this is why I warned earlier. Like, you might as well just go watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of any reason not to watch it besides like if you don't like Alice, then I wouldn't recommend it. But like if you like Alice, you should watch it just because it's a different interpretations than probably what you're used to. I think even if you're some people are like super super faithful, like doesn't you don't like any deviation from the book. I think you should still watch it because it's still pretty relatively faithful. But I think it'll be done in a way that you find interesting at least.
Yeah.
And if you're a theater kid, what are you even doing here? You should be watching it already. Like, if you love theater, this is definitely the version of Alice for you to check out.
Yes.
And even if you don't like what's going on here, this quote unquote music hall version, I think you'll still find things to enjoy in the theatricalness of it and the creativity. I also want to give a shout out to like just the way they filmed this. It's like they really did embrace the material for how random is the kind of I mean it's not the right word, but how eclectic I guess the soundtrack was,
Yes.
and just lean into it and use the medium of film to really
Uh-huh.
like capture the surrealness. I think they did a great job. This is probably not my top 3 or 5 favorite Alice's, but it's definitely like one of my favorite Alice's. Like if I had a top 20 list, this would probably be on it. Maybe top 10. Maybe I should actually do that sometime. Figure out what my top 10 Alice's are. But yeah, I definitely recommend this. Go watch it.
I should do that too at some point. Maybe in the future once I've done all of the Alice's.
Video idea.
Which seems like an impossible task at this point. There's so many.
Yeah,
But that is a good idea.
maybe like at least the recommended Alice's, like the you ever see those iceberg meme pictures?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that would be an interesting podcast idea. The Alice in
it would
Wonderland
be.
iceberg.
Yeah, that would be its own interesting iceberg, like a video idea. But like at least knowing like the Alice's like same mid of the iceberg, I think you could do a top 10 list from there.
Uh-huh.
Because it'd be possible. I still haven't seen every Alice, believe it or not. I'm still working through it myself.
Yeah, no, I haven't either, but someday we will.
Yeah. So it's like if I waited to do a top 10 list until I saw every Alice, I probably would never get to it. There'd probably be another Alice out by the time I finished,
Uh-huh.
or I thought I finished. Which is part of what I enjoy about the story.
Yeah. I love all the different interpretations of the story. Like, I don't think I'll
Same.
ever get tired of seeing how different people interpret it. Like, this is the whole reason that I started the Every Version Ever podcast is because I started doing this with Alice, and it just got me so interested in how they did other stories. And now it's,
And you're still doing it.
yeah,
Um,
almost
I
10 years
think,
later.
yeah. So like this is a bit of a tangent, but I've heard people or I see people like talk about how weird like the new Wuthering Heights is. This is a tangent. I have no interest in Wuthering Heights at all. I tried reading it once. It's not my thing. But I was kind of annoyed when I saw some commentary that it's not like a good version of the book or it's just weird. And I'm like, just enjoy weird media. Not everything needs to be interpret faithful like adaptation of the original source material.
Uh-huh.
Just enjoy it. Be creative. Enjoy it. So that's kind of how I feel about Alice. I realized I was kind of projecting on my annoyance with that because I love having different interpretations.
Yeah, me too. I don't really know much of anything about Wuthering Heights. The only experience that I have with the story is somewhere between 10 and 12 years ago, I can't remember exactly how long ago, I went to Colorado with my cousins, Sarah's two older sisters, and we had a long car ride going through the mountains, and to keep us busy, Shayna was reading Wuthering Heights while I drove. And I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. When I bring it up, I'm not really talking about the story itself. But the movie, I guess the newest movie it's not like a period adaptation.
From what I heard, it was more based on the director's memories of reading it as a kid. So, like, she's not adapting the book, she's adapting her own memories of it, which is a really unique idea for making a movie.
Yeah, and the costumes are, like, all over the place, and it's not really an adaptation of the book. And I just get annoyed at the commentary that I have seen, I guess, criticism about that, and I'm just like, y'all are way too basic. Like, just enjoy it. Like, okay, sorry it's not faithful. Maybe I'm a hypocrite, because sometimes I have been like, they don't understand it, the source material. But, at the same time, like, it doesn't really matter. It's just one version of the story. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it ever again.
Like the Tim Burton version.
Yeah, exactly. Though I have watched that. Oh gosh, how many times now? A lot more than I would otherwise. But anyway, that it did make me really appreciative of, like, Alice, and, like, how many different interpretations I get with Alice, and I'm so greedy and spoiled. I want more interpretations. I want different aesthetics of Alice's, and different, like, styles, and things I could never think of before.
Yeah.
Give them all to me. I love Alice.
Yeah, me
and
too.
Alice at the Palace is definitely one of those, like, creative adaptations that gets my brain going.
Yes, definitely. No, I was not expecting to like this in the way that I liked it. I expected it to be just another theatrical version. I didn't expect it to be one of the most bizarre, like, it's not, like, bizarre in, like, a weird, off-putting way. It's just bizarre in the choices that it makes. Like, it's so different to any of the other things I've seen, and I really like that about it.
Yeah, I like that about it too. And maybe we have strange and different versions of Alice continue.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think that's probably all we have to say about Alice at the Palace.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this is longer than I even expected it to be.
But
there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we will be back for more weird Alices in the future. Although I don't know if it'll be weirder than this, but we can only hope. Until the next time, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Sure. For Alice Media, Still She Wants to Be Phantomwise on YouTube. And for non-Alice stuff, you can find me at Love Gifts of a Fairy Tale, also on YouTube.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next time for something else.
See you then.
Thanks for listening to Wonderland Wednesday. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. All of our links will be in the description below. If you'd like more podcasts like this one, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you'd like to support this show, check out Johncast Media on Patreon for everything here, plus bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Come along and pass through the looking glass into Wonderland.